is the Capitol Rundown.
Our insiders are weighing in on the state's move to try and keep the Connecticut sun. Primary day and more. Capitol Rundown, folks, is back with politics that matter to you from both sides of the aisle. I'm Kara Sundlun. Happy to be joined by Themis Klarides, our former Republican House leader, and Jimmy Tickey, a Democratic strategist. Welcome back.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
It's been a busy summer.
Yes, it has.
And it's appropriate that we're having you back today because for many towns, they just had a primary day yesterday. We had one town with 5 people running for mayor. I know it's not a presidential year, but it can matter even more for our local towns. So, Themis, let me start with you. What's your take on something that shifted or what we really need to know for primary day?
Well, I mean, as you said, there were many throughout the state. A couple that I know we've talked about that were probably kind of top of mind were Norwalk and Hamden, which both had Democrat incumbents who chose not to run. And then there were primaries, or because there's always many people when incumbents decide not to run to fight it out for that. The interesting thing for me in Norwalk in particular is the woman who won. Mm-hmm. There was about 3,000 people that voted, give or take, and she only won by, I think, 78 votes.
Okay.
That's a very small amount, but the reason why I took notice of it was she raised a lot of money. She raised, I believe, upwards of $80,000 for that race, which is a huge amount of money for a smaller city in a primary, and she only won by 76 votes. Which the reason why I think that's a good message is that a lot of people think, oh, I can't run for office because so and so has so much money and I can't compete with them. But it's not just, money's important, don't get me wrong. We all know, you need money to send out mailers and do digital ads and all the important stuff you do, but it's the work and the message of the candidate. So that's why I thought that was really significant. In the town of Oxford, we had a primary. Again, another long-term incumbent that decided to run again, and one of his colleagues in the Republican Party decided, I think it's your time to leave. And he challenged him. He actually got the nomination, so the incumbent did not get the nomination from his own party, and he said, I don't care. I feel strongly about the town of Oxford, and I think I've done a good job. The grand list is up. Real estate prices are up. We're getting businesses in here left and right. I want to run again. And he ran, and he won. And in that case, there was about a 1,700 voter turnout, and he won by over 250 votes, which wouldn't be a lot if you had 500,000 votes, but in 1,700 votes, that's a lot. So, we have both sides of the coin, but there's a lot of messages in that. If you really believe in what you're doing and you believe that people feel strongly about you, then you should go for it.
Okay. It's a good message. Mm-hmm. I know someone who has a book coming out about how to run for office. Jimmy Tickey. We'll talk about that another time, but in the meantime, I want you to weigh in on what you're seeing from the Democratic side.
Yes, it was an exciting night, and it is so true, as Themis said. It's about every vote really does count. Some of these primaries came to just a handful of votes. And so in Norwalk, the Mayor Rilling is not running for re-election, so we had a Democratic primary there. And Barbara Smith won, who was the president of the local council, so well experienced. And it's so true, every vote really does count. It's about the ground game, as campaigns call it. In a campaign, are you out there talking to voters? And primaries can be difficult for many reasons, one of which is you're out there talking to voters all summer long. And so it's hard to reach people, but it's so important to let them know that these local elections are happening. And in some instances, Democrats and Republicans, they might have more than one candidate running, and so they're trying to get the endorsement or the nomination from their own political party. In Hamden, yes, 5 candidates were running for mayor. Yes, quite a bit. Again, there, the Democratic mayor was not running for re-election, so it was an open seat, and Adam Sendroff won there. He was the president of the local Board of Education, and he won there. There was other primaries around the state in Stratford and in Stamford, but by and large, those were the 2 that had really top of ticket on the Democratic side. And it's true that these local elections are so important. In a local election, we were lucky if 3 out of 10 people vote with local elections. Yet local elections, it's the most important that affects your daily lives, your streets, your roads, your local tax rates. So this was a good step. We are now on the other side of Labor Day and on the other side of the primary, and so all eyes really now focus on local elections, which are so important. So we encourage people to really look at the candidates that are running in your local town and vote in local elections.
If I can just add one thing to that, in the Norwalk race. So now we have a newcomer of sorts on that level that got nominated as the Democrat nominee. But 2 years ago, Mayor Rilling, who was a mayor for, I think, 13 years at this point, he was a police chief before that, so very well known, very well liked, decided not to run. But the Republican that ran against him 2 years ago actually got pretty close. and that was actually against a very well-known Republican. So it'll be very interesting this November in Norwalk to see what happens against somebody who doesn't have the same name ID, doesn't have the same record and notoriety against, against the Republican whose name is, and I apologize, Vinny, if I mispronounce your name, but Vinny Cicatano, I believe.
Okay.
Yes.
He's not Greek.
He's not Greek, so how would I know?
Okay.
Gotta say it.
So, all eyes also looking ahead. I know we're not at midterms yet. Nationally, we keep talking about the midterms, but Congressman John Larson is now going to be primaried, and we've got both former Mayor Luke Bronin of Hartford and then Representative Jillian Gilchrist of West Hartford coming out to say his time's done and they want to run against him. Jimmy, I want to start with you. Larson is an institution in Connecticut.
Absolutely. John Larson has been an accomplished and very senior member in the House of Representatives, serving Connecticut's 1st Congressional District. Very senior, and that does matter in the House of Representatives. And he's particularly looked at as a real thought leader around Social Security and his efforts to strengthen it for citizens here in Connecticut and across the country. And even before he was in the United States House of Representatives, he had a very long tenure in the state legislature.
Yeah.
So a real record of success and of effectiveness throughout his career. I think we're up to 4 primary opponents, 2 of which are well known. It's former Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin, who is running, as well as West Hartford State Representative Jillian Gilchrist. And everyone has every right to run. As we were just talking about local primaries, this happens at a state and a federal level. People are putting their name forward, and we have a long way to go. The May 2026 will be the time where Democrats gather at their conventions, as Republicans do as well, and they will elect their endorsed nominee. And then if there is a primary, that will be just a year from now. We'll have a Democratic primary if there is one. Jillian Gilchrist is from West Hartford. West Hartford is a very large, if not the largest voting bloc in the 1st Congressional District, so that's something to be mindful of when you are looking at a primary electorate. And former Mayor Luke Bronin has raised a lot of money. One of his pledges has been to not accept any political PAC money. So all of the money that he's raised, which has been quite sizable, has been from individuals. But again, John Larson is well known, well regarded, has been there for a long time, and people know him and trust him. And so that will be a conversation really among Democratic voters in the 1st Congressional District over the coming months.
But likely to be intense because we're already talking about it now. And just to have both of you comment on this, we're talking about a lot of what we're seeing on both sides of the aisle is this wave of generational change. Clearly the other Democrats, maybe they're trying to ride that. And what's your take, even though this isn't your side of the aisle, Themis?
Well, we do see this a lot. I mean, we just talked about the town of Oxford with a long-term incumbent who is, in his 70s, and the man that decided to challenge him was in his 50s, so it wasn't like a 20-year-old, but, significantly younger. And he decided that it was time for a change. Now, I know in this particular situation with Congressman Larson, who, Jimmy is right, has served with distinction in the state of Connecticut, in the state Senate, and in Congress for many years, and is a senior member. And there is significance to having a senior member to your delegation, because new people going down to Washington, they're not going to get the same amount of things done as some of the senior members. But to go to an incumbent, unless that incumbent has some obvious problems, illness or, incapable of doing their job, which clearly isn't the case with Congressman Larson, to go to them as former Mayor Bronin did and say, listen, I think you're great and I think this is wonderful, but, I think it's your time to go and I'm going to challenge you. Now, of course, he has every right to challenge him. Everybody has any right to challenge anybody. But I just think that is a disrespectful thing to do when somebody is doing a good job. And I know that Congressman Larson is ready for the fight because he believes in the state and he believes in his district. So stay tuned.
Jimmy, anything else?
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Yes.
Okay. All right, I want to move on to the WNBA Connecticut Sun deal. We've got a lot of private investors. We've got the state saying that they're going to put up money to keep this women's basketball team, professional women's basketball team here in Connecticut. Now it's getting political. Senator Blumenthal actually chimed in and said, stand down, WNBA. You might be breaking some laws here due to your influence. And basically Connecticut delegation letting the powers that be in basketball know, hey, we want to keep this team. There's so much going on behind the scenes. So Jimmy, let's start with you, and then I want to hear from Themis. What can you tell us? What's really going on here?
Well, I know what Senator Blumenthal said and which much of our delegation has said, which is that, look, if the WNBA is blocking any proposals to keep the Sun in Connecticut or New England, there are federal antitrust laws. And so, we need to be fair about this process. We want them to stay in Connecticut. We want the Connecticut Sun to be right here in Connecticut, whether that's in Eastern Connecticut or in Hartford, stay here. And it's an economic driver for our state. It is a tourism hub for our state. And we are the basketball capital of the world as well as the pizza capital of the world. So we need a basketball team here, and we're so proud of the Connecticut Sun, and I think you're seeing a lot of political efforts to work to keep them here and to make sure that we have an environment where we can have the Connecticut Sun right here in Connecticut.
Themis?
Just for a little background, the Mohegan Sun bought what at the time was the Orlando Miracle in 2003 for $10 million. It was the first Indian tribe that had ever owned a basketball team. Now, fast forward, almost 25 years, well, over 20 years, that investment has gone up 25-fold. And I say that because there is a group of investors in Hartford, including the city of Hartford and the state of Connecticut, that have decided that they're going to offer them approximately $350 million to buy that team. So $350 million versus $10 million in 2003. There is a group in Boston that would like to buy that team. But the NBA, and let's remember, the NBA made the WNBA as far as a legal entity. So the NBA basically controls the WNBA in a lot of ways. And they're saying, yeah, you know what? I don't really like the Hartford thing, and I don't really like the Boston thing. How about we, the NBA, buy it for $250 million? Now think about this. When there's two groups that are going to buy it for almost $350 million, why would you offer $250? Because you want to lowball them and then sell them to another state and make money off it. Not okay. Right? We know since COVID, the city of Hartford, in addition to many cities, right, have lost business in their retail and their restaurants in a lot of places because a lot of people are working from home now. So a lot of businesses have either closed or downsized. And we know every time the XL Center, now the People's Bank Center, has an event, what happens? Restaurants are full, retail's full, we see hustle and bustle everywhere. So, for the state of Connecticut to consider putting money in to invest, and now listen, as a former leader and legislator, I am always very fiscally prudent with the money that the state of Connecticut has because it's our taxpayer money. But we have to balance the pros and the cons. And when you look at the jobs we're going to make, the people we're going to bring into the businesses we have, and the pride we have of having our own team, I think it's certainly something that should be seriously considered in regard to a state investment because I think it's really a no-brainer.
I'm going to ask this on my Facebook page because the $100 million, the state would come up with some money, but there's about $100 million if they build a practice facility in Hartford and some games are played there, maybe $100 million of bonding, which would be taxpayer money. Does it make sense to use taxpayer money in this way?
Well, the state has used taxpayer money through bonding for other major efforts that have been economic drivers. So this would be nothing new. And if it's an effort that actually would bring money back to the state, bring people into the state, help small and medium-sized businesses, help suppliers, it would do a lot to create job creation around the whole effort around the Connecticut Sun being and staying in Connecticut. So it's not just about the money that might be spent or invested by the state, but all that money that would be coming in. And that's why you make good investments with bonding, to make sure that what you're doing actually has money that comes back and grows the state and grows the economy.
And $10 million in 2003 versus $350 million in 2025. I mean, clearly that's a major increase in that investment. And we all know in the past few years, the WNBA has grown in leaps and bounds in popularity. And I don't think that's going to slow down anytime soon.
Yeah, women's sports are having a moment. So there's bipartisan agreement that this is a good investment. Okay, so and part of that, I just want to share with our viewers, you were just recently at a Basketball Hall of Fame induction, and there's a big presence in UConn.
There
just
is.
Maybe cementing the idea how we have this legacy and how it is important to our story.
Well, the National Basketball Hall of Fame is in Springfield, Massachusetts, and I was fortunate enough to be at the induction ceremony, and there were 9 inductees, and 2 of them were former Connecticut Husky basketball players, Sue Bird and Maya Moore, which is amazing. Not 2 out of 9, so go Huskies. Hall of Fame is a huge deal. I mean, clearly there's there are a lot more men in it than women, but women are catching up really quickly. And I know we have our very own Kara Sundlun, who has now been nominated to the Connecticut Broadcasters Hall of Fame. So congratulations to her.
Thank you very much. I'm honored. I don't know that it's like a Sue Bird. I'm a little shorter, but I'm very honored, and that's amazing.
Well
and
deserved.
thank you to both of you.
You're
Thank you to both of you. And I also want to congratulate Jimmy, because you have been elected to the Democratic National Committee. There was an election in Minnesota, and so you went out there, and I know one of your missions and why you have a book coming out is to tell people to get involved in their local government. So tell me about this new position for our insider.
Well, thank you. I went out to Minnesota, actually the Minnesota State Fair, which was so much fun. Yeah, it really was a lot of fun. I had a corn dog. I had pork chop on a stick, which was a personal favorite. It really was delicious. So I had a lot of fun. Yes, the whole thing, the DNC, and I do give the new leadership of the DNC credit. They are all about getting the DNC out of DC, and so all of their meetings will be taking place out of DC, but around the country as they meet. And so this was our first meeting under the new Democratic National Committee. There's a lot of work to be done, and they opened up some at-large seats, and I ran for an at-large seat and won, elected by the membership of the DNC, and so looking forward to bringing some reforms to the DNC and some organizing ideas to our Democratic candidates.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you.
So we have just a little bit more time. So I want to bring this up as well. First of all, when we left for the summer, we talked about that Governor Lamont would likely maybe declare sometime over the summer or right after Labor Day. We haven't seen that yet, and yet we have seen that perhaps he's acting like a candidate. It seems that most people assume Governor Ned Lamont will run again.
I mean, I think that, my feeling is the same as it was back in March when you asked us what we thought. I think he's running. I think he'll probably announce after the municipal elections, I'm guessing. And I think he is acting like a candidate. He loves the job. He loves Connecticut. He likes what he's done, and he wants to do more of it. And I think that that's probably the direction we're going in.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It sounds like everyone that talks to him says he really loves the job. He's having a lot of fun with it. All signs point to him running again for a third term, and I think at this point we're really just waiting for that announcement. We are now in the throes of local elections, so when that timing might be in the coming weeks or on the other side of local elections, I don't know, but it does sound like he certainly is running for a third term.
And we do expect a special session to be brought too, because we left off with pretty big housing bill that could affect a lot of people who are watching, a lot of people at home. This housing bill is going to be first order of business maybe as we get to the end of the month, early October.
I would get, they're planning on sometime in October. It's the housing bill, and it's also how the federal cuts in the budget have affected the states, obviously Connecticut in particular.
We'll have to talk more about this in an upcoming episode, but since we've been having in the news every day, and President Trump saying that he's going to deploy National Guard troops, he's done it to D.C., wants to do it to Chicago, we're seeing more ICE raids in and around Connecticut. Just give me a quick comment from both sides about what happens, as far as local leadership, and if this type of federal inaction, both with ICE raids or any kind of infiltration with National Guard troops, were to happen in Connecticut.
I don't see it as a likely action in Connecticut. We've seen it in D.C. They're talking about it in Chicago. These are places that are much bigger and have much bigger issues. We look at the city of Hartford, and we've seen every indication of crime that has gone down, whether it's car thefts and murders, et cetera. Right, the shout out to the mayor of Hartford. It's 40th birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Arunan.
Happens to be my son-in-law, so that's
and
fun.
He's a Democrat.
And he's
so
a Democrat. So what are you gonna,
support,
it is what it is.
Okay.
We love him anyway.
Yeah.
But so I think whether it was in Connecticut or any other state, the same reaction. Everybody would have the same reaction. I just think it's not as likely in a smaller state where things are less volatile, and where we're looking at crime that's going down more so than in some of these other states.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. I think as the courts have also said, it's really up to the governors to call in their National Guard if they needed it. What you're seeing in some of the other cities around the country is unnecessary. It kind of creates chaos. It creates confusion. It creates fear. They're not always going after criminals, which I think many would agree with if you wanted to pursue criminals. But hopefully we don't have that in Connecticut, though ICE has been in Connecticut. And
We've
they
had
have
a lot of raids.
had raids at car washes in Southington. They've been in Norwalk and Stamford. So, we have seen some presence, but this is where we should let local and state police lead. That's why we have them, and we believe in them, to have state and local leadership work together, and we don't necessarily need this president calling in troops into our cities and our towns across this country. As Themis points out, we have even seen declining crime in some of our cities, particularly Hartford. And so I think that we need to be mindful and to rely on our local and state police. And President Trump doesn't need to look into Connecticut to send any further troops here.
All right. We'll see what happens. Thank you both for coming back. The Capitol Rundown airs every week, streaming for free on WFSB Plus. You can also go back and watch other episodes. You can also go to WFSB.com. Just click on local news. You'll find the Capitol Rundown there. It is, as always, politics that matter to you in easy to understand ways from both sides of the aisle. So, Themis, Jimmy, thank you and welcome back.
Thank you.
Good to be back.
Yes.
Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you for Eyewitness News at 4 coming up soon.